Ladies and gents, welcome to Next Level Radio. I am your host, Colby Wortman, and our mission is to tackle the biggest questions in strength and conditioning, business, investing, and everything in between. We bring to you the best people in every sector so that you, the listener, can benefit and learn from the best in the biz. Whether that is S&C or business, you can rest assured you're getting the best knowledge available. The best tech and training, the best software and people in the game, TeamBuildr is the one way to elevate your coaching and training game. Having used TeamBuildr as a coach and an athlete for almost a decade, I can confidently say TeamBuildr is one of the best options for coaches of all levels or fitness enthusiasts. TeamBuildr has customer service second to none and has overall made me a more effective and efficient coach. Go to teambuildr.com and get your 30-day free trial now, and we thank TeamBuildr for being a premium sponsor of Next Level Radio. All right, folks, let's talk about the big 30, 30 years old. You know when your warranty starts to expire and you realize your body's check engine light is on more than your car's? That's when I decided to pop the hood on my health because as a hybrid athlete and a father, I've got more miles on me than a secondhand scooter. I've gone from back pain so bad I couldn't sneeze without yelping to running marathons like I'm being chased by a swarm of bees. And who do you think I have to thank? The doctors and wizards at Dakota Stem Cell Institute. They're like the pit crew for your spine nestled in the heart of Rapid City, South Dakota. So if you're tired of feeling like an antique sofa every time you bend over, give Dr. Pierce a ring at 605-342-8348. Tell him you want the Next Level Radio tune-up. Trust me, it's the best call you'll ever make. Having trained athletes for many, many years, we have tried every treadmill known to man. You name it, we've tried it. With these treadmills, there's always been a disconnect, something missing for our athletic performance, something that just does not correlate to athletic success on the field until we tried our TrueForm runners. TrueForm for over 10 years has been elevating the performance of pro athletes, college athletes, recreational runners, and everyday athletes alike. You can check out TrueForm treadmills at trueformrunner.com, and we thank TrueForm for being an exclusive sponsor of Next Level Radio. Ladies and gents, welcome back to Next Level Radio number 125. We have a repeat offender on our hands in more ways than one, and a mentor of mine and somebody that we've loved to have on this podcast and could be a repeat offender multiple times. And so it's something that you stand on the shoulders of giants, and this guy taught me a lot of the crazy shit that I do today, so good and bad. And so we have Coach Pete Leno here today, and it's a pleasure, man. Just have you introduce yourself a little bit.
Well, thank you. It's great to be back. As you said, I was coached and taught for 32 years at DSU, Dickinson State, and retired officially from that position. The official date was January 15th, and now I'm in private enterprise. So the company I'm with is the corporate identity is Turnkey Health, but our DBA is Treadmetrix, which is an established brand. Treadmetrix has been designing, building instrumented treadmills for 15 years now. So started out with 3D force measurement, but also getting into some custom designs for military applications and other unique virtual environment settings. Also have introduced instrumented and programmable leg press devices. So, which is unique. We've got close to a dozen of those on the market. And then we also, in our product line is markerless 3D motion analysis. Right now we're the only group that I know of that can integrate the markerless motion capture with force measurement. So we're going through some growing pains as when you're scaling. That's
Yep.
Any business goes through those growing pains, and we're kind of going through that a little bit, but pretty happy with the product line and our customer base, and just going to see how far we can grow this rascal.
Yeah. I mean, capital intensive with what you do, and you've been doing it for a long time. And for me, this is for everybody that's watching and me. The last I knew, obviously, you were one of my professors, coach, mentor, all this stuff, and you were originally AccuPower Solutions when you were kind of by yourself a little bit, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So AccuPower Solutions was Steve Swanson and I were co-owners of that business, and that was originally just a simple software product that connected to AMTI force plates and provided useful analysis for jump, landing, gait, but primarily those motions. It was kind of a joint product between we created the software product. AMTI created a portable, decent size, a 40-inch by 30-inch portable force plate, and so they put the capital in to design the force plate. We designed the software.
Okay.
And then we just had a strategic partnership where either one of us could sell it as a package. And, so that customer base grew to about 250 to 300 users across the world. Turnkey Health is basically was the merger of three companies, Treadmetrix, which did the instrumented treadmills, AccuPower Solutions, which is the force plate software. And that's the software that we use for the markerless motion capture. And then we had a startup 2.5, 3 years ago called Intelligent Strength, and that was the programmable resistance devices. So we brought them all under one hood from an organizational structure to try to grow it. And we just think between looking at being able to evaluate and train strength, evaluate and train gait, walking, whether it's walking or running, and then being able to evaluate and train balance. Those are the three pillars of movement. Mm. And so we're just trying to provide a one-stop shop where any group that is looking to evaluate or train those pillars of motion, you would have one spot where you have a vertically oriented integrated solution for doing so.
Yeah. I'll have you just move that a little closer.
Okay, sure.
So it's evolved a shitload since then. When I've seen it, prior to you were just building the software and running it and getting a lot of data capture from DSU athletes and kind of building that out. What was the turning point? Was it retiring there and kind of just hopping in with the Treadmetrix? What was like the turning point for you to kind of just bring it all together and go into this?
Well, the turning point was, I guess there's a couple turning points. I mean, from a business standpoint, it was, okay, how are we going to scale this?
Yeah.
And it just seemed to bring, because the AccuPower software interface was used with Treadmetrix products with the force plates,
okay.
and also with Intelligent Strength. So we had kind of a common user interface. We had a common database where the local database where all the data is stored. So we had that common thread, and then Steve and I, primarily Steve, but myself, were common, human resource threads, and with him, going balls out, on all of these ventures, and I was given as much time as I could, with my employment at DSU. It just, we got to the point. Okay, we got it. Okay, if we're going to grow this, we're going to need some capital. We need some heads, and so getting the capital investment, and we hit a critical mass with these leg press, this programmable leg press, where we felt that it could scale into a viable product. It was like, okay, it's time. Let's go.
Yeah. It's. Do you miss outside of like the push and pull, the late nights, early mornings, the doing both AccuPower and being a professor? Do you miss portions of that? I know there's a lot of politics, but
yeah. well, politics aside, maybe politics isn't the best term. I mean, DSU is in a transforming time, and there's some tough decisions to make, and I hope the decisions they're making work. I really do. Yeah. For many years, even my early years at DSU, I was teaching a full-time load, and we were all coaching 2 sports.
Yeah.
I mean, so I was in track, I was in football. At that time, in the 90s, in our in the league we were in, there wasn't spring football. So there was a lot of multi-sport athletes. But when you're doing that, okay, you're recruiting for 2 sports, you're teaching. There's a lot of variety, and so in some ways that was nice. With some of the classes that I taught in those early days, there were activity classes, gen ed.
Yep.
And, what was nice about that is you got a chance to interact with just about everybody who walked through the halls of DSU.
Yep.
Thousands of people. So, and then when the performance center came in, then I just was put a lot of energy in that and coaching football and teaching. But there was always a lot of variety, and you got to you interacted with students, with athletes, with faculty. In different areas. So it was nice not being in a silo.
Yeah.
So I kind of miss, the interaction with, whether it's somebody in IT, somebody in, another, Murphy Hall was, by DSU standards was a walk away from Weinberg. And,
Yep.
But interacting with, I kind of miss that. And that 1 hour a day teaching biomechanics was my mental health. And so I do miss that a little bit, but I see where this venture can go, and it's going to be it's going to be that coaching lifestyle, I guess, of the long days, short nights. That's what it's going to take to get over the hump. But some days I wonder at 60 years old what the hell I'm thinking doing this, but I do see where this could be, in 5, 10, 15 years. It's fun to be in this space now on the sports science side, on the tech side, in such a fast moving transformational time as well. So
yeah, I want to get into kind of how all the inner workings, and I want to get over and kind of see your day to day one of these days. The early years, this is something that I understood, but I don't think everybody else understands. The early years of when you got the original grant for the force plates, and then you started building the software, all this stuff. What people don't understand is, like, back even in my time, we didn't have a dedicated strength staff. We didn't have a designated strength coach. We didn't have these things. It was your D-line coach writing what he thought you should do, which was rogue. To have force plates and force plate data and force plate technology at an NAIA school was unheard of when you first did it. And still to this day, I can guarantee there's less than 2, 3, 4, 5 NAIA schools that have force plate technology. And so those early years of the force plates speak to that. Like, it was kind of a run and gun, drinking from a fire hose kind of deal, but it was
That's
really
a good
cool
way to say.
Yeah,
drink from a fire hose. I mean, it
was just above its time, and nobody else at that level would have that.
Yeah, so where the impetus for a lot of that came from was, when we started the Performance Center, when I say we, I'm talking DSU.
Mm-hmm.
Entered into we had a license agreement with Acceleration Products, which is the John Frappier training system that uses used the high-speed treadmills.
Athletic Republic?
No, it's Athletic Republic. But at the time, John was, rest in peace, brother, but he had gone to Russia in the 80s, and he had seen what they were doing in terms of training the nervous system, and looking at training from more from an integrated than a compartmentalized, like Western training, especially at that time, was very compartmentalized. His methods were unique. I mean, he was a trailblazer. He was probably ahead of his time. So he spent an awful lot of energy, and I mean, we're talking financial energy, blood, sweat, tears, a lot of emotional energy defending his methodology. And, so from his perspective, the only way that he could defend his training methods and grow those as a business was to have, solid testing results. Okay, here's proof.
Yep.
And so he, and I was the first athlete John trained, moons ago. So I had seen, I had a chance to see that methodology, the business from its infancy.
Yeah.
And, so when I got to DSU, it took 7-8 years, but we were able to get a plan together, and the university and Ben Frank made the investment, but part of the agreement was okay, we're gonna train athletes, and I think the results we had in that 10 to 15 year span speak for themselves.
Yep.
But but it was also designed to we're going to grow our academic programs, but we're also going to be kind of a testing spot, a beta tester, if you will, an incubator for these new technologies that John wanted to, and his company were trying to introduce. Uh-huh. So the first force plate we got into on campus was on that leg press.
Yep.
Where we had a force plate mounted to the foot plate. We had a displacement transducer on the weight stack. So we had a high quality force signal. We had a very high quality displacement velocity signal, so we could get power. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you could do, linear jumps. I mean, granted it is a leg press, so it's a stable environment, and the results are going to be, or the interpretation is going to be a little bit different than if you're not in that stable environment. Yep. But I mean, that's where we started. And what John wanted to do is, you can do a Wingate test for anaerobic power, but how functional is spinning a bike as fast as you can? Is that the best way to do it? So he was looking at, let's do just repeated jumps on his leg press, and we'll get the same measures, but it'll just be from a different movement. And so that, we started on that in 2001.
Okay.
And the first iteration of the software for that was actually embedded in a web browser using an ActiveX controller. Mm. And so the data went straight from the plate to the cloud. So, I don't know if anybody else was doing an athlete management system, but on campus starting in 2002, we were doing, we started building one of the first enterprise athlete management databases the world has ever seen. Mm-hmm. And, there was lessons learned from that. And obviously it became a problem with internet security and things of that. So then we went to a standalone software, and then it just evolved from there. But we started, we were tracking, athlete data, isometric testing, jump testing, as far back as 2002.
Yeah, and with some high quality athletes that were coming in during that decade.
Yes,
I would say some. It fit the mold, and I think Sometimes it's really fucking unfortunate that when people are ahead of their time and they look like this. I mean, I'm not saying John was this at all, but to the outside perspective, like this charlatan, this somebody that's bucking the system, that's doing something that's not traditional, and it's ahead of its time. Well, where are we at now? And we're seeing all of this data, we're seeing all of this technology going to this point of what in the infancy of what John was talking about to where we're at now.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's a great. I mean, it has evolved, and it's and it's evolving
fast. I'm guessing
fast. Yeah,
you know better than I.
Yeah, it is. And my fear in the whole thing is, well, I shouldn't say. Let me back up on that. The thing that everybody that's using this data has got to remember that data just drives decisions. It doesn't make decisions for you. And so, I look at over the years the metrics that we can pull out of a single vertical jump, which to me is still the most overanalyzed motion in the world. I mean, there's hundreds of metrics you can get out, and the thing that just from a force plate, you're going to get how the person's interacting with the environment. Okay, but it's still incomplete. You put the motion capture in with it, you can understand some things, but I think there's going to be a lot of technology out there, and there's going to be a lot of people going to be marketing that it'll do this and do that, and fully understanding the athlete. Okay, understanding this person physically, that's part of it. But there's still the art of coaching people. I mean, the day-to-day interaction. So, I mean, I can remember in teacher ed classes back in the 80s, that teaching was an art and it's a science.
Yep.
Okay. And so coaching is the same thing, but the science looks a little different now. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of rabbit holes that you can get going down. And to me that, where that data is most useful is how is the athlete changing over time? Yeah. That's to try to compare. I'm not a big fan of normative data. It's a nice point, but I mean it's like, okay, this DB needs to get out his breaks better. Okay, what's limiting him from doing that? Where I think maybe it's my bias, but where the tech can really help is, okay, it'll help you understand limits, where the person stacks up to limits, and how you can make intelligent decisions on training. Your eye is still going to tell you some things. Your gut is going to tell you some things, and sometimes the data lines up with that, sometimes you don't, and then you have to decide what's next.
Yeah, marrying the two. Something that I always enjoy talking to you about, and I think it's a point to hit home, and I'm sure it's still a principle, philosophy that you take. And so early in my career, I told you I just going to hit 9 years for me, which is crazy. It seems like it was just yesterday too. And the thing that I struggled with early on in my coaching was had the knowledge, had X, Y, and Z, and continually trying to sharpen that blade. But the biggest thing that I struggle with, and I'm starting to get better at, and I see over and over again, is the lack of testing or the lack of data collected on athletes, and making decisions without that data, or making decisions. So it's just like, we're just doing this 5-3-1 program because this is what Jim Windler told us to do, or, and just doing this to do this. So I've been trying to get a lot better at that, a lot more testing. We're doing a lot of different sprint stuff on that end that I'll talk to you about later. But the big thing that always rang home with me when you talked about is high-speed eccentric loading, and why the barbell is just a tool, and it's an incomplete tool at that. The dumbbells are just tools and incomplete. And everything is incomplete, but it's this bigger piece of the puzzle. And so speak to kind of what John had seen and why this high-speed eccentric loading is probably a more pivotal and more important thing than a damn heavy back squat barbell.
Oh boy, I'm gonna try to summarize that. That's a great.
But that's
great
something
question.
that always really like, holy shit, these are all just tools. We're trying to provide a stimulus. We're trying to provide the best stimulus possible to drive adaptation. And yes, these are great tools, but they can't mimic high speed eccentric loading.
Well, and that's, you mentioned the speed, and I think, the way I've, kind of summarized it or tried to explain it for those who've been exposed to that force velocity curve,
Yep.
just a general pattern of, how muscle can generate tension based off its, the cell length, and then how fast that length is changing. And, but if so eccentrically we can generate more force. And that curve, that little the two asymptotes, at either end of that, on the eccentric side and the concentric side. I mean, ultimately, our nervous system is going to put boundaries on where that curve is going to reside. So again, providing the stimulus, what was very key. And so, the high speed eccentric really, that where the biggest loads come in that regard are when our limbs are moving faster. So, a big part of John's, training methodology, running uphill on a treadmill. And anybody who's ever run uphill knows that, our foot strike pattern changes. I mean, we're turning it over faster.
Yep.
Okay. So, I always said it's like somebody's auditioning for the Flintstones, if we're swinging our leg faster, that means our thighs moving faster, means our shins moving faster. That means our foot is moving faster. Okay. And so the inertia of those body segments just moving that much faster is that high speed eccentric loading. So essentially, I always thought that, running uphill in those treadmills is a lot like plyometrics. It's just, instead of jumping, we're running.
Yeah.
We're
doing mini jumps.
Yeah. We're eliciting a stronger stretch reflex response. So basically, a lot of what John's methodology was manipulating, providing stimulus so that we could manipulate that stretch reflex response. The human system could upregulate the sensitivity of that, what was referred to as the gain, I guess.
Yeah.
So a smaller stretch would get a more augmented response. It was training that. So it's really about expanding those boundaries. And if I learned anything in 20, 25 years of doing that, was that the nervous system's ability to modify the gain on a stretch reflex to desensitize the Golgi tendon organ, which those are two, features that allow the muscle to express more force. If the nervous system has the ability to expand those boundaries, to desensitize the GTO, to upregulate the gain of this, that was, we found over years that adaptation, that salient adaptation is in the spinal cord. So basically, to me, it just seemed like the most salient adaptation that athletes could get is the ability to modify those boundaries when needed.
Yeah.
And so that would apply to pretty much everything that the athlete was doing. So whether, you're running on a treadmill, how's that help me on a wrestling mat? Well, if I can upregulate my muscle spindles every time I shoot a single, it has it seemed like that was, ultimately that's the adaptation we're looking for, is expanding the boundaries. That's the best way I can say it. Allowing allowing muscle to express the force that it can when it needs to.
Yep.
And so, the combination of movements and training that he did, where you actually train through that in all aspects of that force velocity curve, then you can get a uniform shift to that curve, and for, I wish I had a way to visualize it right now, but what you're looking for.
I'll put it on here. Yeah.
Okay. But it's ultimately, you're looking at shifting that curve up and out,
Yep.
up and to the right, so at any given velocity, that we can generate more force. And that's, and the thing I'm learning now, you start getting the balance and you start looking at, people my age and older, there's still value in being able to do that as well. And there's training and interventions are, clinical interventions are going to be coming out in the next 6 to 12 months that are going to address that are, I can't fully share right now, but I'm going to tell you that it's, the early results of this training with some warfighter amputees is ridiculous.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's, so I that's kind of been the fun part, as I've evolved, is seeing that, okay, this whole concept that John had and, and Steve has worked very hard to build upon and grow. It's really a womb to tomb experience.
Wow. I never thought about that. Yeah. I mean, the athlete side into later life, I would consider, because you shared a lot of John's thoughts and patterns and philosophies and stuff, and I'm sure you felt this too. I'm not just saying this, but you were ahead of your time, because where we're coming now is what we were talking about in the early 2000s. There's a lot of, I'm in touch with the social media side and this shiny object syndrome and all these dipshits doing sports specific training and putting, it's crazy. Yeah. But we come down to providing a very specific stimulus for the uneducated consumer or viewer, providing a very specific stimulus so we can get a adaptation on the backside that is positive for the direction we're trying to go in. So very specifically, if I want to lose weight, I need to eat X. If I want to gain weight, I need to eat Y. It's the same thing in the training world. I need to provide Y if I want this route, and I need to provide X. And that's a very simplified version. Yeah. I mean, we know, and you better than I, how deep it can get. But I feel like you were ahead of your time too. And I just, you and I have views on many different decisions that are being made in many different areas, but I feel like a lot of people could benefit from what you're talking about, whether it's womb to tomb,
Well, and that's my motivation for doing this. Now, was I ahead of my time? John was ahead of his time. I was one of the few that was trying to catch up.
Yeah.
That's the way I kind of look at that.
Yeah.
Because they were his ideas, and I was just somebody that was trying to replicate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of, I think everybody's looking for that stimulus, and and the thing of John, what he understood the integrated human movement system better than anybody I've ever met. Yeah. And I think, that, having that understanding and doing the testing that he did allowed him to see, okay, all right, we do this treadmill training. Okay. Yeah. The goal is, we want to run faster. I want to dunk the ball. I want to, steal second base, whatever it is. I mean, that's what the athlete, that's what they want to see. Okay. But,
how do we get there?
How do we get there? Okay, well, we're talking adaptations in the nervous system. We're talking to the muscular system. We're talking to that integration. We're talking, there's a hormonal response. There's metabolic responses. There's cardiovascular, and so, okay, ultimately, when we look at that trained athlete, okay, he was looking at developing, the whole. Yeah. And I think. Where I've seen young trainers get themselves, I don't know if I want to say get in a pickle, but maybe aren't getting the responses that they're looking for, is getting too specific. Yeah. And that's why, earlier when I was saying, okay, this is what I learned. I mean, ultimately, how you go about doing it, I mean, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but it's ultimately, it's okay. Muscle will only do what the nervous system tells it to do. And so, you have to be able to, your training has to provide the right stimulus so you get that. So the nervous system is generating the stimulus that you want. Not only just the individual muscle, through strength training, but okay, it's got to be, you're hoping it's going to carry over into the movements. So there's, every movement we do, there's coordination strategies. You look at a quarterback in a football game. It's not like 7-on-7 where he's, there's no pressure, and sometimes he's got to throw a little sidearm. Sometimes you see with Brett Favre and Mahomes and these guys are, ad-libbing.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you start pulling in visual stimulus that you got to respond to, okay,
changes
that change, and that's going to kind of be the next step, I think, in training is going to be, okay, how can we not only integrate, everything with the human movement system we just talked about, now we got to include the visual, the audible,
almost
all
the
those
virtual
things.
reality stuff to train.
And that's where the interesting thing's going to, it's going to come, because I could show you some video that, Steve with a group over in France. I mean, they're integrating VR with this treadmill. So the treadmill, so you could be on a walking trail.
Okay.
If you see that on a VR screen, okay, and so that treadmill will actually respond to the contours of that, and it'll move side to side, it'll move up and down. I mean, it's and what they're able to do with stroke patients with cerebral palsy, different health conditions. Okay, we're creating a visual stimulus that they get to respond to in a safe environment. And so I think the next step with that is, I think the computer hardware to create, the visual stimulus that's even more realistic than what's on the screen right now is probably the next emerging technology. And, so that, that I think that's, with AI and some of these different technologies, okay, the biggest challenge is going to be for people distinguishing, okay, reality from virtual reality, how integrated they are, and are my adaptations too much to that virtual reality that it doesn't apply to reality, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and at that point too, you're now going to be getting a more specific hormonal response out of this virtual reality too.
Oh, sure. There's.
It's a cascade.
Yeah. So, so I think where training is going to go, and I don't know if I'll live long enough to see all this. I mean, I'm not writing my obituary here by saying that, but I just I don't know how long it's going to how long this evolution is going to take. But I where training's ultimately is going to go to get that sensory integration, and to train the whole person. It's gonna be that integration of the senses. So I mean, a simple way of saying is brain training.
Yeah. There's not a lot of brand new things, and you get these people that I'm doing something brand new in this brand new system. If we look back, some big names: Vergashansky, Charlie Francis, Poliquin, all these guys where it's like, holy shit, we should be training the nervous system, and they look like idiots. You look with Gunther. He was one of the best examples of it, doing hurdle hops at 250 and going up bleachers and doing these jumps and stuff, and now we're seeing it a lot now. And it's not new, it's just new technologies that can help us get there, So it's super interesting. And you talked about young coaches, and something that I really, really probably fucked up on a lot. We all do it. But I was focusing on, and this probably changed in the last 5 years. So I'm at 9 years. So in the last 4 to 5 years, just focusing on the training, the muscular stimulus and adaptation, and only training that system. And I could say, hey, we're doing some jumps, we're doing some depth jumps, we do plyometrics, or we do this, but building a system that I have a part of the knowledge, I just don't have the the equipment and the data processing, I know it's good, but I need to have something that can help, again, make the decisions, help dictate the decisions made about their training. And so I feel like I struggle with it, and possibly other people that train athletes is like just focusing on that muscular adaptation is it's not what we need nowadays.
Well, it's
part of it, but it's not.
It is part of it. And I think first of all, we're perfecting those mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't invent those mistakes. I mean, I made a lot of them. But anyways, the thing with tech and these numbers, okay, like I said, they're designed, to help solve problems.
Yeah.
Okay, identify a problem, formulate a solution. Not every problem, training athlete needs $250,000 motion capture force plate setup. So to me, that tech, and maybe this is the old coach in me, but I don't know how many games I watched over the years on the sideline, and thought we did this well, and we did, maybe need to improve on this, and then put in a film Sunday afternoon, and the first thing, what game was I watching?
Yep.
And so there's things our eyes as a coach, as a trainer, there's things our eyes are going to miss, and I think this technology, especially video, can be that tool that, okay, we miss something. Fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
And tech is going to be, there's a lot of these technologies that are going to become commodities in time, just because everybody's looking for that magic bullet. I mean, there's still a lot of motivation to be healthy. When I'm 80, I want to be on a golf course. Play football as long as I can, whatever it might be. Competitive. I want to run a 5K, or I want to run a marathon at 50. I mean, they pick the goal.
Yep.
But I think there's still a lot of motivation for that, and I think there's the soft skill. I mean, having access to that data is nice. Okay, understanding it is better, but still there's the soft skill of translating that into coaching
Yep.
is still is still going to be a critical aspect of this. And one thing I noticed over time on campus when I was doing this testing too, and then is we both we've been in a college football game. Okay, we got a game. Yeah, we won. Yeah, we beat whoever. We beat Rocky. We beat Minot. Whoever it was. Okay, yep. We're happy. Okay, and we come in Sunday to look at film, and we maybe got a little bit of a headache, and but
yep.
Yeah, we won. Yes, that was great. Last day was fun, and then coach flips on the film, and then it just
your world flips.
And coaching and teaching is a we're in the business of correcting.
Yep.
And one thing I noticed over time was is that the athletes, we do this testing. You try to say, okay, hey, we're going to help you get better by doing X, Y, and Z because of A, B, and C. And they were just like, in some ways, some athletes just tune it out completely, because it's like, okay, just another example where I'm getting my ass ripped.
Yeah.
Where I'm and so I think having that communication style. Hey, look, that it may be a thing where, okay, you catch somebody running and you see a little bit over pronation in the forefoot and shin splints, and it's like, okay, it's nothing more than when you warm up and you're doing your stretching, just add these 2 stretches.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as that, So, I mean, so the soft skills of being able to translate numbers and graphs and what seems like gobbledygook into something that's digestible, but also that it has to be digestible, but it has to be non-threatening.
And find the best of both worlds, and don't overwhelm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the amount of data you can get is overwhelming. But at the end of the day, can you Can you communicate? Can you effectively assess? Can you do these things that, and there is some low barrier to entry technologies that can really help. Even slow-mo camera on your phone on a treadmill, something small that can really help. You can get some angles. You can see any crossover symmetry, pronation, supination, anything like that can help. And I think taking your time and doing that as a young coach has really, really helped, but also knowing your athletes, that's the skill that could be a forgotten art. Like, when I was the coach at the college too, it's like there's some kids that you can scream and yell at and call a dick face and do all this, and then there's kids that shut down, and they'll shut down now. And over your years, you've seen it. I mean, people that have played college football know that whenever DSU, it's on Sunday mornings. When you're watching film, it's not 90% of the time. It's not a lot of fun. Because we're in the business of correcting, and those are some of the worst mornings. A little bit of bush light in you, and so finding the middle ground between data and analytics and actual just being a coach is probably where we need to be.
That's it's still the sweet spot, and like I said, I don't think that's ever going to change. I mean, I do think over time. With resistance training, I think, AI has the potential for making recommendations.
I was just going to say prescription.
And making it a little more, a little less labor intensive for the coach. But, I think, AI relies on a lot of data, and it relies on a lot of good data. And
shitty data makes a shitty AI.
It has a chance, to lead you down a bad, a not desirable place. I'm not saying bad or destructive, but less than optimal. So I mean, there's AI, like I said, has a chance to really transform some things. But I think that's one of the things that coaches, like you said, there's some technology, that's a little easier entry point than the stuff that we sell.
But we need people on both ends.
Yeah, but there's limitation. I mean, you just have to understand. Okay, whatever it's measuring. Okay, there's going to be some margin of error. Okay, and there's going to be some there's going to be limitations to every bit of data that you gather, and you just have to know it, and if it's within your margin of error, okay, and you can make good decisions from it. Great, but it's I think anybody that's young coaches or any coach for that matter that's getting into tech, it's just really understanding. Okay, there are limitations to this. And so understanding that, and it's just putting every bit of data has context, and that's part of the context of any.
And set your expectations. I think we need people on both ends. We need people like you that are pushing the limits on the software, the data, any type of artificial intelligence that is introducing itself into the sports performance world. We need people pushing that side of it, and then we also need feet on the ground coaches and marry that too. We need both of those people to make this the best product.
It is, and and I think that's I guess if I looking back on my as an educator on the education side, I think we did some good things on campus, but as I travel out and work with different people, I just I hope that some of the college curriculums will put a little more emphasis on true biomechanics, I guess. I think physiology. I think we do a good job teaching that, neurophysiology, strength training, those kind of things. But in biomechanics, there's graphs, there's math. Oh God, we're doing math, we're doing calculus, and it's I think there's even talking to some former students that are in PT school, what they call biomechanics is not the biomechanics that I was talking about. And you know, the way I taught the biomechanics is, okay, we have to understand these things. Okay, we can understand a tech. We can truly describe motion. That helps us understand what limits motion. That helps us understand where this person stacks up to that, and that helps us guide training.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I hope that, you know, education and continuing education will, you don't have to be, you know, carrying a slide rule in your pocket all the time. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be an engineer, but you have to understand where these metrics come from, you know,
to drive decisions.
To drive decisions. And that's some of my favorite technologies. Okay, a lot of people are math averse. I mean, you know, the old Bobby Green joke, I got a C in algebra and my dad beat me for cheating. I think there's a lot of people that, you know, that feel that way.
Yeah. And
you don't have to be a math genius. You don't need a semester of calculus to understand, okay, you know, if I'm doing a vertical jump, okay, I see this curve, okay, where that curve comes, you know, this force curve.
Yep.
Okay, we're measuring force, you know, 1,000 times a second. Okay, we're taking a snapshot at this second, this is the force. Okay, and then we're just connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see force rises and, you know, and understand how that applies to the motion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's
valuable.
Yeah, and I think it's getting there, but it's going to take time for education to get there. But you know, but again, a lot of it has been, you know, the technology used to be able to do that has been cost, you know, hasn't fit within the budgets of a lot of universities, and the universities that have force plates and motion capture, they're typically in the graduate. You know, graduate programs, and then you might be getting into some territorial things between undergrad and grad, and don't disrupt my lab and this kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, there's some barriers to break down for sure.
I'm assuming, and we don't have to say like who is now or whatever, but I'm assuming if there is a biomechanics class still in the curriculum at DSU, it looks a lot different, because who else could run dartfish?
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
You know, dartfish was a fun product, and we used it. But within Acupar, what we ended up doing was put our own video capture.
Oh, okay.
There's a number of reasons for that, and you know, we could drive the cost of the product down. At that time, dartfish was a 32-bit program, so it created memory issues. So if you're doing long,
and back when bandwidth with this thing,
it was a bandwidth thing essentially. So, but to think that there's a lot of people could teach what I taught. I mean, I know the first biomechanics class I went to, I taught. So I never had it as an undergrad. We had a kinesiology class, which is like functional anatomy. But we didn't, there was no biomechanics. I mean, so
I wonder what it looks like now.
It's something, that I had to just dig into and learn so I could teach it well. And I was lucky to have, guys like Steve, Sandy Whittlesey, who is a phenomenal biomechanist out in the East Coast. John, obviously. I mean, I had a lot of mentors that helped guide along. But what helped me learn, to not get down rabbit holes, though, is, it was always taught in the context of the whole human movement system rather than just
segmented.
Yeah. And that's, that's how I learned it. I feel fortunate to actually have learned it that way, because I think it certainly helped me on the, when I was training athletes.
Yeah. Well, I feel fortunate that I was taught that way as well. And kind of transitioning from there, we talked a little bit about what you're developing, how you're developing it, that kind of stuff. Your office is based at ND, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Awesome. So on your side, this is me just selfishly trying to figure out information from you too, is are you more on the software building side of that now, or do you have force plates there? What's the office look like? What's your day-to-day there now?
My day-to-day,
besides old Milwaukee's and
I wish old Milwaukee's. The day-to-day right now is, okay, as you're trying to scale a business, is just
putting out fires.
Putting out fires. Yeah. I mean, developing processes so that you can scale and, you can grow heads. And okay, so now, on different parts of the operation, such as, making sure, like, to build one of these treadmills, we have 4 or 5 vendors that are involved. Okay. And there's a timeline of, okay, there's a final assembly. Okay. You work backwards from there. Okay. Electronics has to come in, all these, there's ordering of product, there's ordering, making sure product gets to where it's supposed to be, developing processes for that. There's accounting processes. We're also, there's some software development that's going on. There's, refining our, that programmable leg press.
Yeah.
And then there's, then supporting the product that's out in the market. So
customer service.
Yeah. So there's all those things going on. I guess, it's mentioned earlier, nobody's really integrating force data with this markerless.
Yeah.
And so there's some technological challenges there to get that, like right now, I mean, we're pretty pleased. We've grown our, developed our product to the point where, we can, where the workflow's fast, is good enough where we think we can actually execute at the NHL Combine with markers. So that means, okay, every 10 seconds for 8 hours, there's a jump.
Got it.
And, so, I mean, we've refined our hardware. That's, the computer hardware that's used, the software, we've evolved enough to, I mean, if somebody does a vertical jump right now, in 35 seconds, we can have a full
panel of data,
a full panel. And, so that's, we're pretty excited about that. And, so now that fits into a lot of workflows. So now it's like, okay, is the return there? It's not, that doesn't fit into our workflow, or I don't understand it. Okay. Those barriers have been broken down. It's like, okay, is there a return on investment?
Got it.
That's, so developing those business cases is a lot of what we're doing.
So if I go over to your guys' office there, and can at your office, or is this like a remote thing where could I see some of these technologies, or is it you're implementing it at distance for these other companies?
Well, we don't have a test lab here in Dickinson. I mean, we have kind of our display hub, if you will, is in Salt Lake City, Park City.
Yeah,
because we have all of the technology at the Utah Runners Clinic, which is part of the University of Utah system.
Utes are my favorite college football team.
There you go.
My college, yeah.
But anyways, there's a therapist there that's been doing 20 to 30 running gait evaluations a week, cash based.
Wow.
And able to do it with the markerless motion capture. So it isn't just somebody running and holding my phone and collecting a video. I mean, we're turning out inverse dynamics, in that 15-minute billable window. So that's a real nice display. And then the strength side of it, with the programmable resistances at the U.S. Ski Association High Performance Center, Parallel Stem. Within an area a lot of people like to visit, we've kind of got, that's where most of our technology, so if somebody wants to see it, we bring it in now. There is a programmable leg press here in town that I could show you, and I could demonstrate the markerless
at the university.
Well, like I could show you the video, the output.
Yep.
But having the full camera system and hardware.
That's a whole
stack. We don't have it. We don't have that in town. So at my office right now, it's just me in the cube and just getting the day-to-day done.
So I'm not shooting the shit or blowing you full of steam, but I'll pay my way, whatever we got to do. Next time you go to Park City, I will be your bitch. I honestly, I would love to come help and just fucking be a fly on the wall and just see your shit.
Yeah, no, it's there's a growing number of opportunities to do that, and so it's there is a high, there is support that's involved, so scaling intelligently is important, but I think, we're going to be, Salt Lake's going to, Steve lives in that area, so that's kind of going to be
the hub.
Going to be the hub. So
okay, I'm serious. I'll buy a damn plane ticket. I'll come down with you.
Well,
let's chat about it.
I'm gonna, I'm guessing I'll be making more than one trip down there next year. So
yeah, I would love to. I got family down there as well. So, well, son of a bitch, man. I appreciate the time a lot, and I mean, dude, we could pick 44 different topics and have a podcast for an hour and a half.
Well,
it's
fun to be back and fun to get together with you again.
Yeah, man.
And so yeah, as time goes on, and if you need to cure insomnia with your listeners, I'm here.
There you go. There you go. I appreciate it a lot. And say your businesses again, where people can kind of find that. I know it's a select group of people or population set of people.
No, sure. The website would be www.treadmetrix.
Treadmetrix.
And it's spelled TREADMETRIX.
OX, got it.
And that would provide a good overview of the whole product line. Turnkey, like I said, Turnkey Health is just our corporate identity. But I think that's the best place to get an idea of what we do and why we do it, and get a sense of what our passions are, and that's our shtick, if you will.
Yeah. Wow. I'm looking at the leg press now. Definitely built off the model what I'm used to at the college, and now into a more modern integrated digital screen. That's pretty cool. Where you said there's one in Dickinson. Now, obviously not the full setup, but where's that at?
That leg press is at Elite PT.
Got it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we installed that in it would have been February.
Awesome.
So that it allows you, from an evaluation standpoint, you can do.
One of my athletes actually just used that. I didn't know it was your guys's. One of my athletes from Killdeer.
Yeah. Yep. So we can do isometric, multi-position isometric testing, multiple speed close chain isokinetic testing, and then also you can do training where being it's a programmable motor that provides a resistance. You have.
Oh shit! It's not a weight stat. I get you. No, I got it. Okay.
Yeah. So you can anywhere you establish a range of motion for somebody. Concentrically and eccentrically, every 10 position, every 10% of the range of motion, you can adjust the resistance. So,
very cool.
So everything, so you remember the old Agaton. It takes the best of that. It takes the best of that 3PQ, and it takes the best of what we think is the future.
Yeah. Damn, that's awesome. That is awesome, man. Well, for people, you guys can find them on Treadmetrix, and I appreciate your time more than you know. And next time, Park City, I'll be your bitch going down there. So,
all right. Well, I'll you don't have to be my bitch, but we'll. I think you'd enjoy it. It would be a kid in the candy factory, man. Just you go to that. Paris facility, the U.S. Ski Association.
Yeah.
I mean, I walk in there and then I just go, oh. I mean, it's just like you're.
That's in Park City.
That's in Park City, so it's on the east side of Park City, just a mile and a half north of the 80 freeway.
Got it.
No, south.
Okay.
But it's on the east end of Old Park City.
Cool. Well, thank you, Coach, very much. I'm sure you'll turn into a multiple repeat offender, and we will see you guys next week.